Hey everyone, it's Loomer. I'm here at PAX East, and I'm sitting here with Darby McDevitt, who is the lead writer of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Previously, he also wrote Bloodlines, Discovery, Assassin's Creed Revelations, and Embers. So anytime you want to kill or marry an assassin, you kind of just call him Darby. I think that's what Gabe said, right? Anyway, so why don't we just jump right into... I kind of wanted to talk about Edward Kenway, our new protagonist, kind of his personality. So if we go back to the announcement of AC4, it was said, you know, if Altair is motivated by duty and Ezio revenge, then Connor is motivated by justice. So I was wondering if you could sum up in, like, if you had to sum up in one or two words, like what Edward's motivation is. I was curious what your thoughts are.
Infamy. He starts out the game very much motivated by a desire to just acquire gold and plunder and infamy. Because his background is he's grew up very, very poor. He's born in Wales and then moved to Bristol when he was really young, and always being a very lower class, and so he always had this sort of dream of doing better for himself. And around this time, a lot of people are going to the New World, especially the West Indies, because it was a place where gold was being extracted by the ton by the Spanish. The British were setting up a lot of sugar plantations, so rum and molasses and refined cane sugar was coming back there, and a lot of people would go down there and try to make a bit of coin. Also, there was privateers that were always, British privateers would fight the Spanish, Spanish privateers would fight the British, and you could just, if you had the money, you could get a ship and you could get a letter of marque from a king or a governor or something and go just attack ships. So you were kind of a like a militia or quasi-military. And so Edward sort of motivated by a passion to just better himself and just, be a little rich. As a young man, he's like, I want better, I want more, I want money. He goes to the West Indies and around 1712, 1713, joins a privateering commission, and then falls into piracy that way. So he's a very, very selfish guy, and he's a pirate right at the beginning of the game. He's a pirate for a lot of the game, and the story of our game is how the sort of assassin, Templar, and even the monarchs, the dictatorship kind of monarchies, how they all kind of influence his development and where he eventually ends up. And I think that story will be surprising to even people who've read Forsaken and know kind of the end of his story, because we really play with a lot of expectations in this story. So if I were to sum it up in one sexy word, it'd be infamy. So very, very opposite of all the other assassins beforehand, I think. I mean, he's like I said, he's a pirate first and foremost. The assassins, he comes into their sphere in a very strange way, which I don't want to spoil too much of because that's the fun of the story.
Yeah, it definitely seems... It's kind of interesting you bring up the other assassins, because it's like, when I saw the debut trailer for AC4, it was very much like, oh, it's like you see all the women, and he's like, oh, he's a womanizer, he's a little more charismatic than Connor was, and so I think most people, kind of thought, oh, we're kind of swinging back to the Ezio end of the spectrum, and I was wondering what your thoughts are on that, especially, kind of how it compares to the other assassins, but Ezio especially.
Well, this, we've heard a little bit about this too, and there's certainly like some superficial details. Like, Edward's going to be very kind of charismatic, but he's also going to be kind of really hot-headed. He's going to be a bit crass. He's going to be a heavy drinker. He's going to be a bit brutal. He thinks before acting, or he doesn't think before acting. He definitely is flirtatious and things, but he doesn't have that kind of noble upbringing, so that leads to a lot of... that Ezio did. So that leads to a lot of very different qualities. He's definitely willing to, say, like, screw someone over, an innocent person over, if he wants to steal something from them or something. He is a pirate. When we did a lot of research at the beginning, I wanted to create a guy who was the archetypical pirate of the time. Early 20s, British, Welsh in this case, but 80% of pirates were from the British Empire at the time. Because of the circumstances, Spain had a lot of land there down in the West Indies. England didn't have a whole lot. Jamaica, Barbados, the Bahamas, and Bermuda. Very small islands compared to what Spain had. So all these British sailors were like, this sucks, and our king's not paying attention to us. Let's go rob these people. So this is the background that Edward comes from. Also, as an Ezio thing, it's like I created Edward almost a year and a half ago. After I read a first draft of Corey's script for AC3, because we knew we were doing Haytham, a long time ago. Haytham was always, on the cards. So, and we didn't communicate him to the fans, right? Because we wanted him to be a surprise. But we knew that we were doing Haytham a long time ago, and we wanted to, rather than an Ezio trilogy or a Connor trilogy, we knew because we had Haytham and Edward, we also wanted to, or Haytham and Connor. Radon Hagedo, I don't even say it right, that we wanted to do Edward as well, and that this was an idea we had a year and a half ago, and I started writing him as a direct opposite of Connor because I wanted you to see the Kenway family go through huge swings, right? So you have almost the idealistic assassin in Connor, you have the very cold and calculating Templar, but who also has very good reasons for what he's doing in Haytham. And I wanted to show you what was sort of between those poles with Edward. I wanted the kind of polar opposite of Edward, or almost like the shadow of Haytham. It's very weird, but what we started doing was, we've always had assassins and Templars, but we started drawing in the offices this spectrum where pirates are the most extreme anarchists you can imagine because they don't even have they don't have much of a code where if they want to screw each other over, they'll do it because they were quasi-democratic, but they were constantly screwing each other over. So we do pirates into assassins, which are more honorable anarchists, into like benevolent dictators of Templars, all the way into like monarchs who are just like, I'm the king, do as I say, or popes or whatever.
Like first civilization maybe too.
Well, the first civ, even they had their own personalities, like Juno versus Minerva and Tinia, like they all had their different like attitudes. In fact, like they could almost be seen as emblematic of a couple different branches. But so that's what we wanted to do. We needed to create a pirate that was like his needle kept swinging. Assassin, Templar, assassin, pirate. And throughout the game, that kind of thing, that kind of conflict will happen with him. And so the assassinations you do in our game are sometimes very different than for different reasons than you would do them in previous games.
Cool. So speaking of AC3 and Connor, when I was playing through AC3, I missed the presence of the Brotherhood because it was really just kind of Connor and Achilles, and the Brotherhood didn't, he was kind of restarting it almost. And I was kind of curious if you can comment as much as you can on kind of the state of the Brotherhood in this game, and kind of if we'll see kind of more kind of callbacks to maybe previous games, how it was kind of set up, or what the state of it is.
Narratively wise, or?
Mainly narratively, kind of just like, because even when they're about to do the ceremony in AC3, Achilles is like, they used to do it, but whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and I kind of missed that, like the talking about the actual creed itself and stuff, and you don't get a lot of that with Connor. And I was wondering if you can comment on that.
I think I won't spoil too much. So there definitely is, an assassin brotherhood in this, and there is a Templar order, but because Edward's a pirate and he hangs with pirates, we're presenting it in a different way. And we first and foremost, we want this to be a pirate game. I mean, this game has a huge, robust pirate dedicated layer to it, and we want the players to experience that as fully as possible. But it's built on a lot of the pillars of the Assassin's Creed, so parkour, combat, and stealth, and stealth killing. We definitely want to bring back a lot of our favorite elements from the other games. The open-ended assassinations with AC1, and we have a lot of assassinations in this game right now. And I think fans will be fans will be very happy with what we're planning for a lot of these assassinations. Yeah, without giving too much away, you definitely, though, spend a lot of time in the company of just good old-fashioned pirates, and the story unfolds in a really... I think it'll surprise people. I think people will be very... we won't hit the same beats that you always see, but they'll be there in a colorful way, but with a twist, maybe.
Okay, cool. So I thought maybe we could move on to also the present day. Kind of talk a little bit about that. So this is going to be a very drastic change from previous games, where it's actually you, the player, are the protagonists of the present day instead of having someone like Desmond. And I was kind of wondering To start off, I guess just kind of how far that stretches. Is it just like a silent protagonist, but his or her gender is well defined, or like do people refer to them, or is it just completely like I don't know how much you can talk about this, but
I can't say too much, but I will say a few general comments. One is that we knew coming up, around like AC2, AC Brotherhood, we knew that like, okay, with AC3 we were going to hit 2012, and we also knew that we wanted this brand to continue because we had so many more places we wanted to go, and we knew that it would be really hard to if we did yearly installments or once every 2 years or whatever we ended up doing. We knew that it would be harder to carry on like a present day story with another character, because we want the Assassin's Creed timeline to mirror the modern day timeline. So we don't want to be playing Assassin's Creed 4, but it's still set like 2 weeks after 3, back in 2012, because then slowly we'd get further from that story. So it would be really hard to say like, okay, now with a couple years we've had a yearly release. It's hard to say, okay, this part of the story happens, then we jump forward a year, then we jump forward a year. So our natural instinct was to say, okay, Desmond, that story is gone, but also that style of telling a story is going to change, because we need to be able to, every game, present the present in a way that makes sense in the present. So 2013, when the game comes out, October, let's say October 29th is the day that the present day begins, and because that's when you buy the game, right? And you are an employee at Abstergo Entertainment. You show up for your first day of work. You think it's the greatest job ever. You're given an assignment to go research the life of Edward Kenway, which is possible based on hints from the very end of AC3.
Like the cloud uploading stuff, yeah.
Yes. So you get in that, and it just seems like the coolest job you've ever had. But very quickly, because you work for Templars secretly, right? Stuff gets a little weird. I'm not going to go into any detail about that, but the reason we're doing this is because we want. Also, it's very, as I think some fans would see, is like when you're trying to tell two parallel stories, and like, whoa, nice. Ezio's story has a complete arc in AC2, right? It has a nice, satisfying arc, but you only see 1/5 of Desmond's story, and we wanted to figure out a way so that we didn't have to do that anymore, where we had to constantly be leaving you with these crazy cliffhangers in the present day, just because that's the way it's designed. So we want to design it so that the present day stories are more satisfying too. And so by removing that one layer, by you going directly into Edward Kenway's memories, thanks to some crazy Abstergo trickery, we hope that we can now bring the player closer to that, all the great conspiracies and craziness and science fiction of the present, and bring back characters that you've already been familiar with, but do it in a different way, that you're not constantly going, when's the next one gonna finish all these answers? We want to leave you satisfied with every game. So
cool, great. All right, maybe we'll wrap up with one more quick question. So I was kind of curious about your thoughts on next-gen hardware. It is about next-gen hardware coming out. So as someone who's written Assassin's Creed stories for like Bloodlines on the PSP, which is very underpowered, and then also like Revelations, and AC4 is going to be kind of straddling the line of the next generation. But I guess just kind of in general, are you excited about? Do you see kind of opportunities opening up when you're writing stories now that maybe you didn't have before with the power of the next gen hardware?
Yeah. Yes and no. Like, a good story can be told in a lot of different ways. You can tell stories like comic books tell good stories, and they're all still images. South Park tells good stories, and they're just construction paper and glue and scissors. So it's more about picking your aesthetic and picking the way you want to tell your story and sticking to it and squeezing the most out of it. So Bloodlines maybe was a little underpowered because we tried to do a cinematic experience. We could have done it differently and maybe even had a twice as long a story if we'd done it all with like still comic book panels, or whatever. It's more about asking yourself, do you have the team and the resources to do what you want to do? So certainly with next gen stuff, there's just going to be a higher level of quality to the cinematics. There's going to be, we're going to have to pay more attention to the details and the facial and stuff like that, the lip sync and stuff. I don't know that it gives me any more or less opportunity to tell a great story. I'm honestly more excited about the what the next gen brings in terms of gameplay potential. Because stories are stories, and they can be told, they can be told in audio only. BioShock gets away with or a lot of games actually get away with like great tape recorded messages, and you really get a feel for the world. It's all about how you present your story, sticking to it, making sure you have the resources to do it. Like we've all seen like online, fan movies where they clearly have like a VHS tape player from like 1985, but they're trying to make like a Michael Bay movie. And you're like, well, maybe you should make a Dogma film instead, because you've got that. That's the technology you have. That's the resources you have. So that's actually the biggest challenge is executing what you can. And thankfully we have an amazing team. Like our cinematics team is awesome. I'm a great writer. No. And we have fantastic actors. And so, yeah, it all comes together. And I think this will be a really, this story in Assassin's Creed 4 will be the most, I think, lively of all of them. Because the characters are all like rough and tumble type characters. They're not princes and aristocrats anymore. They're working class sailors who want to make something of themselves. So it leads to a lot of fun characters, and for that I'm thankful that we have an amazing team and amazing actors and great writers across the board. So, yeah.
Great, awesome. Well, thanks a lot. You can follow Darby on Twitter at Darby McDevitt. Sweet. So about that guy on the bench in Embers? No.
You can ask that. Go ahead.
No, I'm kidding. It's fine.
I'm not going to say anything. Actually, I like
yeah.
all the theories that people say. And
Yeah.
Keep coming up with theories, but and I'm not telling you what's in the box either.
What's in the box? Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. Darby likes to keep things kind of a little hazy. Okay. Anyway, so I think that'll about do it for us. So make sure you're subscribed to my channel if you want to keep up with more AC4 coverage in the future. And until next time, we'll see you later.